One. Hi guys, welcome back to the AP podcast. I'm your host with the most, Danny Army King Monahan, and today I actually have two fellow Amazing Plastic members with me. I have Mike Darpino, hope I said your name right, or Darpino, Darpino, whatever.
It's worth it. Hi everybody, how you doing?
And Otto, the tall man Taylor, Tony. You want to say hi there, Otto?
What's up, everybody?
Hi. And today I have a simple topic that I want to talk about. Let me sort out my microphone levels because apparently I'm in the red. Okay, here we go. And pretty much what I want to talk about today is electronics and model kits. As some of you guys know, if you followed some of my Let's Builds, I do incorporate electrical circuits in my model kits. For example, my F4U D1 Corsair, I took an old small little pager motor and I incorporated it into the propeller of the plane, and it's powered by a USB cable, so when it's on my desk I can just plug it into my laptop or into my desktop and flick a switch and the propeller spins. And I know there's a lot of sci-fi guys out there that like to light up their model kits. For example, Steve Neal, Simon Merckx, Scratching Jack Holzer, myself. There are a whole bunch out there, even Otto here. He recently purchased himself a Millennium Falcon that has lights and sound on it. And Mike has hired me to build him a timer slider with all the lights and the sounds and the bells and the whistles and electronics. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about today was simply put about the electronics. And most of which is, one, where do you get your electronics? Two, I often get my electronics from wherever I can. Sometimes I even salvage them from broken electronics, like a TV or whatever. If there's a specific capacitor or transistor or whatever that I need for my circuit, I'll tend to salvage it from that. However, because I've been commissioned to build this timer slider for Mike here, he asked me what would it take, and so I started hunting around. I found the schematic, which isn't a problem. But the problem was the majority of the timer ICs and various other chips like that, and every American supplier of these specific chips that I needed for the schematic either didn't have them in stock, had them in such low quantities that they couldn't even fulfill my order, or they just didn't carry them anymore. DigiKey, Micromart, Element 14. We
very antiquated stuff we're working with here.
Yeah, so antiquated it should have been in several episodes of the Doctor Who in the 70s. But
it probably was.
Probably was too, yeah. But the point was we couldn't find what we were looking for, unfortunately. So we did find equivalents on eBay, and this is where I tend to want to get a bit angry, and that's pertaining the fact that the majority of electronic dealers that deal with electrical components, LEDs, transistors, resistors, processors, even Arduinos, the majority of them are from China, and this is where the problems for me start to exist. Before I get into this tirade, I would like to thank our show's sponsors. I would like to thank Tenor Controls. I got, ironically, a lighting company that do electronics for model kits. They bring your models to life. Acrylios Vallejo for their Vallejo paints, airbrush paints. The Fiber Optic Store, again, talking about electronics and lighting. Lou's Aztec Dummies painting masks. I'd like to thank them. And what good is having Vallejo air paints if you don't have an airbrush? So I'd like to thank Wada Matea for sponsoring the Amazing Plastic show, group, and channels that we do. And PM Hobbycraft. Their store may be small, but their inventory is huge. They're based out of Calgary, Canada. So if you're in Canada, you can hit them up, and we'll try and hook you guys up with a discount code or something. So back to the topic at large, which is electronics and model kits. I have built several model kits, ranging from sci-fi, for example, the D7 Klingon Cruiser, the Refit Enterprise. They're all electronic. They've got the warp engines lit up. They've got the nav lights going, the bridge lights, things of that nature. But I have noticed that quite a lot of people are afraid of doing electronics, which really shocks me. It really does, because when I first started doing electronics and model kits, it initially started with me adding light bulbs, little grain of wheat light bulbs, if you know what they are, to the inside of cars to make the dome light for the top of the cars. And what I would do is I'd run a piece of masking tape across the wires, running them down behind the support arms of the deck, the hood, not the hood, the roof, down behind the seats, and I'd have a little coin cell battery in the trunk. And if I wanted to turn the light off, I'd just, pull the piece of tape away and the light would turn off, And I started doing that when I was about 14, 15, 15, 16-ish. And so it's not like it's very intimidating, but when you get a model kit like Model Masters Millennium Falcon, and you want to do it justice. You don't just want it as a ignorant, boring, static model. You want the engines to be lit. You want the cockpit to be all lit up where you can see Han and Chewie and Luke and Leia. You know what I mean? You want the kit to be the bee's knees, if you will. And again, a lot of modelers find that intimidating. I mean, think about it. You go to so much trouble to light your model kit, to get that one picture you're taking of your model kit so perfect. Then you grab it, you put it in Photoshop, and you Photoshop the engines working, and you Photoshop all the stars and the galaxy and all that fun stuff. Well, why bother doing all of that when you can just put some red LEDs in the engines?
See, I'm going to stop you there for just a second, Danny. And, I'm going to give my perspective.
Okay.
I can kind of understand why it can be a little intimidating. One, when, if you're not, electronically savvy, like a lot of people are,
mm-hmm.
You have to worry about extra tool costs, knowing how to wire things, apparently, obviously, soldering, safety hazards. I mean, I can understand how it can be quite an intimidating thing, but mm-hmm. there are plenty of resources that you can draw from. I mean, if you're looking to get into it, I mean, I've never experimented with it, but I'm certainly considering it.
Mm-hmm.
Based on what I've seen on the internet and what I've seen people. I mean, it's really quite marvelous what you can do with a very basic, simple electronic setup.
You mean the Google Plus Hangouts where you watched me build circuits right in front of you?
Yes, basically. Yes, it's quite fast, and it can actually be quite fascinating and entertaining.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Otto?
And see, for me, it kind of, as anybody who really knows me knows, I'm huge into the RC market, as much into models. I got into it at a real young hobby. I think I was 6 or so years old, 6, 7 years old. And I had a buddy of mine that, I don't know where he picked it up from, but for me, I was always mechanically inclined. I was a master at making mechanics work. And for him, he was a huge electronics genius. In our first project, we built kind of it was bigger than a 1/6 scale, but it wasn't quite a quarter scale. I call it a 1/5 scale, kind of, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Monster truck. We went up to an RC junkyard and started just buying parts up left and right, and about $100 later, we come home and built this big monstrosity. I done a lot of the, making it run and everything else. He lit it, made it pretty. And so he learned a lot from me on the mechanics side. I learned a boatload from him on the electronics. Because we had it right down to the turn signals, headlights, engine lit up. We had runner lights. Basically, it was a big monster truck, but we decided to have fun and, hey, we're going to go ahead and put blue LED strip lighting on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was just a masterpiece. You turn right and the blinker'd flip and go right. You
Mm-hmm.
turn left, the blinker'd go left.
Cool.
We literally would have the body be able to lift. And so that's where I basically got my start. And in the beginning, I was intimidated, but he showed me, it's like, well, you run this wire to this wire goes there, this does that. At the end of the day, it's really simple if you do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I know a lot of people, Steve, Neil, I think Scratch and Jack's done a lot of smaller scale, tedious, lighting on like his Enterprise, Intrepid, stuff like that. And, to do it on that scale, it's a lot more tedious, but it all kind of boils down to the same thing. All it is a wire going from this to that to make it do one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Generally. So, I will say if anybody's out there scared to try it, don't be afraid to try it at least once or twice.
Mm-hmm. Well,
if nothing else, go down and go hit your local thrift store. They've usually got stuff that
actually
tear stuff apart. Don't be afraid to destroy it and learn. And
well, I was going to say before you do that, I know that your local Radio Shack, they have those little LED kits, like the Christmas tree and the press a button and you get a random dice. Little electronics kit, the introduction to circuitry sort of thing. I also know that Maker Faire, if Make the company, they're part of Radio Shack, I believe. They do a Maker Faire in some of the major cities like Salt Lake, Phoenix, Chicago. I know that they do soldering stations where you can just go in and they'll teach you basic soldering, teach you basic electronics. They will give you one of those kits I just mentioned you about for free, let you build it, and then let you keep it.
There's plenty of resources out there.
Yeah, there's plenty. Again, there's also a resource section in the on the Amazing Plastic Google Plus forum, on the Google Plus section. I'm actually also thinking about doing a Google Plus community section just on electronics, where you guys can post your schematics and layouts and things like that for your specific model kits. For example, if I put the schematic up for the Enterprise that I'm building, and someone puts one up for their Enterprise, at least they've got two options, if you will.
Yeah.
I've got to bring that up with Richard. So, and look forward to that, guys. But again, when it comes to electronics, there, as you pointed out, Mike, sometimes it can be scary. But at the end of the day, if you have, as a kid, if you had a slot car set, you know electronics. Most people are like, no, that's not right. Yes, it is. Because the cars have to run on the metal tracks, which carry the voltage. Do you see what I'm saying?
And that's both negative and positive.
That's electronics. Do you see what I'm saying? If you've... And I mean, I'm not talking about the $2,000-$3,000 slot car sets you get, like what Steve Neal's got. I'm talking like the ones you got at like Toys R Us for Christmas. The ones that ran on D-cell batteries that usually exploded after a week, so you'd always have to keep taking them out the plastic casing. Trust me, I've had my fair share of those sort of slot cars. And
I had one from my father bought me for Christmas.
Yeah, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So there's your introduction into electronics, truthfully, is slot cars. Not these professional ones that change gear ratios out, and like those X mods. Otto knows what I'm talking about. Those X mod slot cars. Those ones have gear ratio sets, engine swaps, and axle replacements, tire replacements.
That's one thing I don't mind. It kind of builds the hobby in a way, but it can destroy the hobby on the same track, depending on the person.
See, now, again...
you got to be careful. You got to make things easy enough to where it's like, hey, if you want to just make it simple, go and do the simple version. Don't over-extract yourself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. It's the same as... you can always have too much of one thing, it's like you get these fanboys, like the whole PlayStation Nation, Xbox One, PC Master Race, and all this shit. Well, you get the same guys like that in model kit building. You get guys that only build cars. You put a truck in front of them or a semi or whatever in front of them. They'll look at you like you're a retard. And they'll be like, I don't know how to build that shit. You know how to build a 55 Impala, but you don't know how to build a fucking Kenworth C100.
And you'll see a lot of that, between the Trekkies, because a lot of the guys will be like
the sci-fi guys, and even then, you've got your sub races within the race. You've got your Trekkies versus your Star Wars fans, or your Doctor Who versus Doc Brown from frickin' And I'm like, oh my
Back to
god,
the Future.
guys, can't you just get along? You know, think about it.
It's all the same thing. At the end of the day,
it's like picture it. It's like watching It's like watching the movie Revenge of the Nerds. Okay, picture this great big huge jock picking on these nerds. Okay, and then he individually picks on each nerd for each thing that nerd is a nerd of. Oh, I'm a nerd about Star Trek. Wham. Oh, I'm a nerd about Star Trek. Wham. And you get another wham because you're a nerd in general. You know, again, it's. That's one of the things that does me in, because a lot of model kit builders, they actually bash on model kit on builders that actually put electronics in their kits. They're like, oh, you just ruined it. How? I just gave it an extra third dimension.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, I will still spend, you know, X amount of hours painting it. I will still spend X amount of hours priming, you know, with the primer, you know, wash the model, prime it. Make sure your primer's all one level color. Then your base coat. Then you got to make sure your base coat's good. Then you got to put a clear down. Then you got to, you know, I've done all of that. You know, I put as much detail into those kits as the guys that don't like their kits. And I just add the lights again for my personal use. If I, like, for example, if Mike says, "Oh, can you build me, I don't know, if I can BF 109 Stuka?" I'll be like, "Okay, yeah, I can do your 109. Okay, but I want this. I want the nav lights. They didn't have nav lights back then. All right, fine. I want the propeller to spin. Okay, I can put a motor in the engine and make the propeller spin. You know, you see what I'm saying? I can, but if I had the personal preference, again, if you watch my Let's Build P51 Mustang series, you see that I've rigged it up so that it looks like the propellers are always spinning. I took a clear sheet of Lexan, a really thin sheet. This usually, I think it actually came from clear plastic packaging of something I bought from like Alco or something. I wasn't really paying attention. And I took my protractor and I cut a circle out and found the center of it, put a pinhole through it, and then put my Dremel cutting disc arm through it. Turned my Dremel on and took a piece of sandpaper, put it in a C channel in between my finger and my thumb, and then just let the sandpaper run across the disc as it's spinning. It actually looks like the propeller is actually spinning, you know? And I could do that. That way it's always spinning. It's not any electronics, so you're still getting the illusion that it's spinning, you know. But with the Corsair, I did that simply because it's one of my favorite planes. I've always liked the Corsair. But I actually learned that little technique from a fellow guy on Amazing Plastic. I learned it from a guy called Dirt Pritchett. He's a cool guy, and he nicked that from another model builder. You know, so again, and then that leads me into the topic of skill sets. You know, the moment you again limit yourself to one particular type of model kit, I personally feel that you've limited yourself.
Yeah, you have to keep an open mind in anything you do, especially something like this where it requires so much creative output on a personal level. I mean, blood, sweat, time. I mean, and just perfect example, just watching Danny tear apart the parts for my timer. You know, it's not easy. There's injuries that take place. He cut his finger and he's bleeding all over the place. I mean, so when they say blood, sweat, and tears, they really mean it. And like I said, it's just, if you're going to devote any amount of energy to anything, you got to do it with an open mind.
Oh yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. Which is why when I first joined Amazing Plastic, I was also a member of another forum. I'm not going to mention their name, but I was a member of another forum. And they watched one of the videos where they saw me working on a sci-fi model, and I got kicked from that group. I got banned from that group because that group was just solely military tanks, you know, planes, jets, you know, and they saw me working on a Star Wars AT-ST, the little chicken walker, and they banned me. They banned me from their freaking forum. And when I told Richard about this, Richard's like, "You don't need them, dude. Work on whatever makes you happy. I don't care if you're working on a model kit of building a shoebox, you know.
Yeah.
As long as it makes you happy, that's all we care about." I'm like, great, you know, which is why I feel accepted here at Amazing Plastic, and that's why I don't judge other people's stuff. If someone puts up for example, there's a guy, James Frost. He's posted up a link on is it a Yamaha? Yeah, it's a Yamaha YZF R1 crutch rocket model kit that he's building. I won't post anything on it until he's got some work done on it, and even then it's not constructive criticism. I don't say, oh, your glue lines suck or this sucks or that. That's not me. I'm like, oh, that's a nice build, man. Are you happy with it? Well, no, I want to do this better. Well, we'll tear the model apart and start again. Never, and that's another thing. A lot of people are too afraid that once they've glued a part together, it can never be undone. Everything once it's glued can be undone. There is a kicker to speed up any glue, but there's also a chemical to unbond glue, if you will. And and this is why I always tell people, when you're building a plastic model kit, don't use super glue. Under no circumstances should you ever use super glue. Liquid polycement, that's all you need. Or if you're working on a resin kit, pin it. Pin the kit with and just a slight dab of super glue. Don't splodge it on like it's freaking tap water. Because that actually, believe it or not, that actually works against you. Super glue tends to work better when you don't put a lot of it on. That's what I've found anyway when building a lot of Games Workshop metal miniatures. They're pewter miniatures.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you use too much super glue, that part will just never stick. Period. And again, I want to thank you guys for joining me on the podcast. I know some of you guys didn't really want to be on here, and this was a spare of the moment thing. But I just realised I promised Richard I'd be putting the podcast up on Tuesday, and today's Tuesday, so I've got to get this podcast knocked out and put on. So sorry about that, Richard.
Couple more hours.
Yeah, I've still got a few more hours. But yes, guys, I'm trying to get a podcast out every Tuesday for you guys here at Amazing Plastic. I also re-upload it to YouTube, which is youtube.com/Danny Monahan. That's my real name. It's not on my Malavictus channel. I keep those two separately. Yes, that means I'm running 4 YouTube channels now. Not 3, 4. But I do try to keep them separately simply because I know some people aren't into what I'm into. They don't want to hear me rant about this, that, and the other. They just want to hear my thoughts on a particular modeling company or a particular glue or a particular product in general. And I will do that. But on my Malavictus channel, I will tend to rant and rave about anything that comes to my little sad, weird mind or within my focused view of my eyes. But if there's anything you guys want to talk about, you can bring it up, you can bring it up now. We've got plenty of time.
Yeah, in closing, I just really want to say that, as much as, like I said before, that, that it can be an intimidating task, with lighting a model up and electronics in a model, or anything like that in general. It's, that's another beautiful thing about Amazing Plastics. There are plenty of people that are willing to help. I mean, don't be afraid to ask a question. I've never had a problem with anybody where they just tell me to go, screw myself because I asked a question. Yeah. It's just, you have to, use the resources at hand and keep an open mind. I mean, when it comes to things like this, there's no limit to the creativity you can and potential of anything you do. You just got to be prepared to put the time, the effort, and just don't expect it to be quick, easy, and painless. Nothing, even life, is quick, easy, and painless. You got to expect some speed bumps, but if you're willing to put the effort in, it's really, really worth it.
Yep.
Well, one thing I will say, going off what he said, with the Amazing Plastics, the one thing I've had a lot of people ask me about this is with the Amazing Plastics. Well, is it just modeling, or is it just this, or is it just that? And I turn around and I said, well, does whatever you're doing include any plastic in it? Well, I'm into RCs. Well, your body's made of what? Lexan. What is Lexan made out of?
Plastic.
Okay, well then it's a part of that,
Yeah.
First and foremost, I am a RC builder.
Yes.
I still love building my RCs, but I still love building my models as well. I got a Kenworth W900 sitting on my workbench right now, next to a 1/6 scale GMC Yukon. So I'm multitasking, doing a lot of stuff.
So are you going to get a model kit of your new Chevy pickup and paint it up to look like?
Well, I kind of cheated. A buddy of mine found out I picked it up, and I have it's going to be a die-cast model. The only difference is this is going to be, mine's only a single rear wheel. This is going to be a dually.
Ah. So
and we're going to try and paint it up.
I was going to say...
Once I get...
Okay. I was going to say, are you going to convert it from a dually to a single axle?
I was thinking about it, depending on we'll see.
Well, when you do, take pictures, put it up on the members.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Members.
The one thing I hate is I used to have pictures. I've done it twice. My dad had a Dodge, 99 Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
We had it in 1:1 scale, which is full scale. I had my Traxxas T-Max with a Dodge Ram body that looked almost identical. And then I built a 1/25th scale Revell model of it as well. And I had the three on top of each other, and it was just an epic picture. And I ended up losing it years ago. But then some years later, I ended up doing the same thing with, I had a 93 F-150 that Danny can testify to, miss it very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done a 93 Revell monogram again, scale model of it, and taken some pictures of it. And so now that I've got this 1990 Chevy, I'm going to end up doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do some scale pictures of it, and they'll be hitting the website soon.
Cool.
As well as I'm going to start give myself a shout out. I'm going to start re-uploading some of my photos.
Hey, if you want to plug a YouTube channel, plug it. Go ahead, plug it right now.
I'm going to plug my YouTube channel. It's going to be YouTube. I think it's youtube.com/rsgace, if I remember right.
Okay.
Or autotani.com. Like I said, I'm going to start doing some modeling RCs. So if anybody's like, oh, I'm scared to do electronics in an RC, there you go. Here's going to be, I'll show you how to do it. It's easy. Don't stress.
Cool. You can do that in the, I believe it's the discussion section of Amazing Plastic. Also, you might talk to Richard, see if he might put you on the episodes section as well. So then that way you can watch your YouTube videos.
My schedule,
yeah. But, I personally, again, guys, I'm on YouTube. I've got 4 accounts on YouTube. You can find me under youtube.com/Danny Monahan, or youtube.com/Deceptive Cobras, or youtube.com/Emery Army Airsoft.
I think you got your Malavictus.
Yes, and then youtube.com/Malavictus. I am on YouTube 4 times, and I try to get videos up on each channel at least once a day, or at least once a day / once a week. No more than that. No less than that. Sorry. And I'm also on. I'm on the web. Mike here is also my IC guy, who's helping me design my second website. I also have a blog. I'm on a blog. It's blogspot.deceptivecobras.com, I believe. I'm also doing podcasts here, like the AP Amazing Plastic podcast. And guys. Well, normally the show will run about 35 minutes, and we're at the 28-minute mark. So if you want, I can cut the podcast here, or we can go on a little bit more if you have anything else to discuss.
In all honesty, I can't think of anything at the time.
Okay. What about you, Otto? You got anything you want to talk about?
I think we're good. We've kind of got as much as we can in for right now. But
okay. Well,
one thing I will say real quick: don't be afraid to. If people want to join the Amazing Plastics, jump in. Don't be afraid to join a hangout.
Mm-hmm.
We're all, we're pretty much all on YouTube, all on Google+.
Yep.
Usually all on Hangouts. If you hit us up, we'll hang out with you, chat, talk.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And with that, I want to thank our sponsors. I would like to thank Tenor Controls. They bring your models to life. I'd like to thank Acrylios Vallejo Paints. I'd like to thank the Fiber Optics Store, and I'd like to thank Lou Aztec's Dummy Painting Masks, and I'd like to thank Awada Matea Airbrushes, and I'd also like to thank PM Hobbycraft. My name is Danny Armor King Monahan, and I've been your host for the AP Amazing Plastic podcast, and I will see you next week with more topics of discussions. So as always, guys, be safe, be sound, and catch you guys on the far side. From my bench to yours, peace and long life.